Morning, as we go to the Chitas of today, we're holding Pashas Bayakel in chapter 36, verse number 8. Vayasu kol chacham leiba eisa malacha. All the wise and hearted people of the performers of the work, as a Mishkan, they made the Mishkan. As oil, they made the out of 10 curtains. Asiyadiya Sheish Moshe, they made it out of 10 curtains twisted of fine linen. Pelas Vargaman of purple and crimson wool. Kruvim Masecheshev, they made cherubim designs. Masecheshev, which was the work of master weaver. Asaisam, he made them. The length of the one curtain was 28 cubits. And with the width was one curtain was 4 cubits. It was same measure for all the curtains. And he took the 5 curtains and he put them together one to the other. They took the other 5 curtains and put them together. So now you had 2 humongous curtains. He took and then he made loops of blue wool at the edge of one curtain, one set of curtains. So he did to the second humongous curtain, he put 50 loops. He made 50 loops in the edge of one curtain. And he made 50 loops at the edge of the curtain of the second set. And the loops corresponding one to another were facing one another. And then he made 50 golden clasps. And then he fastened them. He fastened these 2 big curtains together. And when they were on top of the Mishkan, they became one entity. So now it covered over the entire Mishkan. This was the inner Yediyos that were beautiful, that had a design on them. And the inside and the outside, they both had this was beautiful curtains. And they covered over the majority of the Mishkan from the outside. And there were the beautiful roof of the Mishkan on the inside. And then he made curtains of goat hair. This was actually the roof of the Mishkan. This was the water protection of the Mishkan. These were bigger. They were bigger in length. They were made out of 11 curtains. That was 10. This was 11. And the length of each curtain also was bigger. With shloishim ba'ama, with 30. So it was bigger in length and it was bigger in width. So it covered over the curtains, the inner curtains. So you could not see it ultimately because it was covered with these curtains of ram's hair. So the length of the curtain was 30 cubits. The width of the curtain was 4 cubits. This was 4 cubits for all the 11 curtains. And he took 5 of them and he put it together. Then he took the other 6 and he put it together. And they became, again, he made 50 loops. He made 50 loops on this curtain also. On each curtain, he put 50 loops. And he made 50 loops on the edge of the outer curtain. So now the 2 curtains, the 5 together and the 6 together, each one was a big curtain on its own, now came together as one entity. And he made 50 clasps, copper clasps. The inner curtain had a zov. This was made out of silver. This was made out of copper, and they fastened together that it became become one big curtain. And then he made on top of the Mishkan, he made a third covering, which was made out of ram skins, dyed red, and then the beautiful the tchashim skins, which was above it. So that we remember, we learned machlokes in the Gemara. Was it 1 piece or was it actually 2 pieces? But basically, that was the third cover that was on top of the Mishkan. So ultimately, from the top of the Mishkan, you saw this beautiful tchashim, this beautiful colored cover. And that completes the Chumash for today. Go to the Tanya today. holding a still in chapter. Oops. I learned correctly. Yeah. So we're holding on Wednesday. We're holding the still in chapter 32 of Tanya. So since every Jew has a divine soul, and since the commandment to love one's fellow is based on the essential unity of the souls, we're not looking per se that we are like each other. We're not obligated to be like each other, and we're never going to be like each other. And every Jew has his own thoughts. Every Jew has his own emotion. Every Jew has his own character, and that's the way it is. So when we're commanded to love each other, we're commanded to love each other because we have one soul. We're all bonded by the soul that we have. It follows that this command applies to every Jew without exception, because every Jew has an neshama. In fact, however, we find in Talmud exhorting us to hate certain fellow Jews. But we have a problem. We have a complication. And that is that we find in the Talmud the concept of hating a sinner. We do find it in the Talmud. How do we reconcile these apparently contradictory requirements? Alter Rebbe proceeds to clarify it. Mashe is Gemara, that we find in the Gemara. If one sees his friend is sinning, mitzvah l'sanesi. So the Gemara says it's a mitzvah to hate him. And it's obligated to tell his teacher to hate him. So now, here I tell you that you have to love every Jew, even if he's the biggest sinner. And here the Gemara says the opposite. That if you have a friend, a chaver, a friend that is a sinner, you have to rebuke him. You have to hate him. You cannot love such a person. Alter Rebbe says, first of all, you listen to the Gemara. The Gemara says chaveroi. This applies to one who's your companion. One is your companion. A person is your companion. One's equal in the study of Torah. Chaveroi b'Torah v'mitzvos. Somebody who's your friend, meaning not only is a friend, social friend. The Gemara is talking about somebody who's your friend in Torah, somebody who's equal to you in your knowledge. And you've been brought up together, and you're the same, you learned together, and you studied together, and you have the same situation. You're brought up in the same kind of family, and everything is the same way. And you see, you have a friend that's been brought up with you, which happens throughout history. Elisha ben Avui, the famous story, these were people who were brought up in the same situation, and nevertheless, that one of them decided to go on and not to go against Torah. So therefore, Mara says, such a person, you have to hate, even though Rameh, we know in that story, Rameh did not give up. He did not hate him. So because Rameh actually thought that Elisha was greater than him, but that's a separate issue. So in the study of Torah, observance of mitzvah, the sinner in question is a Torah observant person, scholar, but he has lapsed in one of his in this one instance. In this case, his sin is much more severe than usual, since it's written that even in an inverted misdeed of a scholar are grave as deliberate sins. A scholar got to know, if you're a scholar, if you're a Talmud Chacham, then you have to know. We've learned that in last week in the Tanya, or 2 weeks ago actually, not last week, the Alter Rebbe said, if I'm a scholar, then I'm worse than a sinner. Because if I'm a scholar that has not worked on myself and has not challenged myself, so then what am I better than a sinner? Because I'm a scholar. If I consider myself a scholar, if I consider myself somebody who's learned and somebody who studied and somebody who knows, so then you need to act it, and you need to make sure to do it. So if you're a scholar, in general, some of the gravity of his conduct is not sufficient to cause him to hate him. But even so, therefore, it's like a deliberate sin if you're a scholar. Even this general assumption of gravity of his conduct is not sufficient cause to hate him, as the Alter Rebbe continues. Yet another condition must first be satisfied. Because you have to first, he has to fulfill with him, with the sinner, the injunction, you repeatedly rebuke your friend. The words over here is used, amisecha, your friend. Also indicates, as a Talmud points out, im she'itcha, he who is par with you in Torah mitzvahs. And nevertheless, he's par with you, and he's been your colleague with you all these years, and he's par with you in equal everything. And you're telling him not that you just hate him because he sins. You first have to try to fix him. First, you have to try to make a relationship with him, and to try to elevate him, and to try to inspire him to do what is right. And you tried, as the Gemara says, even 100 times. And you tried 100 times, as the Gemara says, until he, goes backfires, and he starts to rebuke you. He starts to beat you up, bothering him. You have to try to, in essence, elevate this guy, elevate him, and elevate him, and elevate him. Try to inspire him, inspire him. You tried your best. I tried my best. And he says, no, I don't want. I'm not inspired. That's what we're talking about. As is brought down, the Alter Rebbe said, this is not my interpretation. This is an interpretation of Sefer Charedim. At this point, there's no need to exaggerate the gravity of his sins. It's clearly a deliberate transgression. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe, if you're dealing with such a situation, a person that Pashut is like you, and he has all the characteristics, he has all the situations that you are and him are on the same level, and you're trying to inspire him, and it's not working because he simply is aggressively wants to do an Aveda, wants to do this sin. Okay, then the Gemara says, self-understood, such a person is a deliberate sinner, and he's like you, and he's your friend, and you're not supposed to like such a situation. You have to hate such a situation. And as the Alter Rebbe is going to continue. But that's, in essence, if you understand what the Alter Rebbe is saying, you'll understand it's a very secluded case. It's a very specific kind of case. And the famous case would be like Elisha ben Avur, which the sages were extremely against. Was a great Talmid Chacham. He was brought up as a sage with the sages and went against God and went against the Torah, which was a great struggle for the Chachamim of the day. And the Chachamim hated him, and they despised him. They called him Achad. They gave him the name, even though he's a great Talmid Chacham, they called him Achad, the other one. And they gave him this name. They threw him out of the house of study, etc., etc. But Ameir didn't give up, and that's the next self-understood that Ameir was a person who never gave up on even this entity of Achad. That completes the Tanya of today. Today is the 26th day of the month, which is the second half of chapter 119, from the letter Mem till the end of the chapter. If you do that Tilim, you do the Chitas of the day. Wish you all a beautiful, wonderful, happy, sunshine day in the city of Florida. Have a wonderful, beautiful day. God bless you all. See you tomorrow, 8 o'clock. We'll continue the Chitas.